Right now, as you listen to this, the memory chips inside your laptop, your phone, and, even the servers delivering this audio, well, they are skyrocketing in price.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And it is almost entirely because one single AI project is just quietly hoarding 40% of the world's silicon supply.
Which is, it's a staggering collision of worlds, really. We've spent the last few years treating artificial intelligence like it's pure magic, right?
Right, like this invisible, weightless software floating somewhere in the cloud.
Exactly. But the reality of 2026 is that the cloud is, well, it's made of metal, silicon, and electricity, and we are rapidly running out of all three.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to sort of cut through the ethereal buzzwords of the current AI boom and really map out the massive, tangible ripple effects we are experiencing across the globe right now.
And we have a really fascinating stack of sources for you today.
We do. We're looking at tech industry supply reports, Wall Street financial analyses, and direct dispatches from a high-stakes federal courtroom.
Yeah, the goal is to show you how the AI race has completely leaped out of your screen.
Yeah.
It is actively reshaping global hardware supply chains, international diplomacy, and, tearing apart the biggest titans in the tech industry.
But to understand any of this, we really have to start with the sheer physical cost of this technology. And the tech media has adopted a very dramatic name for the current hardware crisis.
Oh, yeah. They're calling it Ramageddon, or the Rampocalypse.
Catchy.
Right. But the global memory supply shortage actually began quietly back in 2024. It's just that today it has accelerated to a total crisis point.
And what demands are mentioned here isn't just that there's a shortage, but the underlying mechanics of why it's happening.
Exactly. This isn't like a pandemic-era logistical bottleneck where, ships are just stuck in a port somewhere.
Right.
This is an intentional structural rewiring of global manufacturing. Major foundries are deliberately abandoning the consumer tech you use every day just to feed the AI machine.
I want to break down that rewiring because the sources point to a very specific culprit here. It's not just regular memory. It's something called high bandwidth memory, or HBM.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this specific component single-handedly breaking the global supply chain?
Well, the mechanism of high bandwidth memory is fundamentally different from the standard DDR4 or DDR5 RAM sitting in your regular laptop.
Okay, how so?
So generative AI models process these unimaginably large data sets, and standard memory chips simply cannot move data fast enough to keep those AI processors fed.
They just bottleneck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So engineers developed HBM, which involves taking multiple memory chips and stacking them vertically, kind of like floors in a skyscraper.
Yeah.
And they connect them with these microscopic wires.
Which sounds incredibly delicate.
Oh, it is brutally difficult to manufacture. When you stack silicon like that, the heat dynamics and the defect rates just multiply.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If one single microscopic layer in that skyscraper fails testing, the entire stack is thrown out.
So the waste must be huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the yield rates are so much lower and the manufacturing time is so much longer, HBM requires vastly more raw silicon wafer capacity just to produce the same amount of usable memory.
So to meet the insatiable demand from these AI data centers, giants like Samsung and SK Hynix are literally ripping up their conventional factory lines.
They are. They are taking manufacturing capacity away from everyday consumer memory and dedicating it entirely to HBM.
It's like city planners tearing up all the public roads you and I use every day just to build these massive private superhighways exclusively for AI data centers.
That is a great way to look at it.
And we're all just being left to sit in traffic while they pave over our infrastructure.
And the scale of those private superhighways defies belief, honestly. If we look at the industry reports on OpenAI's Stargate project.
Yeah, let's talk about Stargate.
That one single initiative is currently eating up roughly 40% of the entire global DRAM output.
I just want to let that sink in for a second for everyone listening. 40%. One project. We are talking about almost half the global output of a foundational technology.
To put a real number on it, Stargate requires about 900,000 silicon wafers every single month.
That is insane.
And the desperation to build these data centers is so high right now that OpenAI is buying what are called undiced wafers.
I saw that in the notes, and it's a critical detail we need to explain. Because normally, a foundry bakes a massive plate of silicon, cuts it up, or dices it, tests the individual chips, and then packages them.
Right. But the foundries are so backed up that the testing and cutting process has become this massive bottleneck.
So OpenAI is essentially buying the raw, uncut pizza straight out of the oven.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
They are taking the massive raw plates of silicon directly off the factory line, just to speed up their build-outs, totally bypassing the traditional finishing process.
And the collateral damage of one company monopolizing 900,000 wafers a month is that the supply of everyday consumer memory has just completely collapsed.
Which hits you, the listener, directly in your wallet.
Because when supply collapses, prices explode.
Yeah. The financial data shows that throughout 2025, DRAM prices soared by an incredible 172%.
Wow.
HP recently revealed that memory now accounts for 35% of their total PC build materials.
So just giving a computer a basic functional short-term memory is basically cannibalizing the budget for the rest of the entire machine.
Exactly. The analysis from Gartner projects a very bleak near-term future for consumer tech. They warn that these rising memory prices are going to make entry-level laptops like anything under the $500 mark totally financially unviable within 2 years.
Manufacturers simply won't be able to turn a profit on affordable computers.
No, and we're already seeing the shockwaves in the gaming sector too.
Right, the Steam machine.
Yeah, Valve had to publicly delay the release of their second Steam machine, specifically because they couldn't source the memory without pricing the console completely out of existence.
Man, so the era of cheap computing might genuinely just be over?
It really looks like it.
But the plot thickens significantly here. Because the hardware crisis isn't just about memory shortages. The very type of brain the AI industry covets is undergoing a massive fundamental shift.
And it is sending total shockwaves through the stock market.
Right. For years, the undisputed king of AI was the GPU, the graphics processing unit. I mean, NVIDIA built a multi-trillion-dollar empire on it.
They did. And GPUs were the perfect engine for the first phase of the AI boom back in 2023.
Because of how they process information, right?
Yeah, a GPU is designed to do thousands of relatively simple math problems simultaneously. That brute force, parallel processing, is exactly what you need to train a massive language model.
You throw trillions of words at it, and the GPU just digests it all at once.
Exactly. But the industry is rapidly moving beyond mere training now. The new frontier in 2026 is agentic AI.
And this is a massive paradigm shift, because with generative AI, you prompt a chatbot to write an email and it spits out text. But agentic AI doesn't just generate text. It acts as an autonomous agent. You tell it, book me a flight to London, find a hotel under $200 a night, and update my calendar.
And to do that, it has to open a web browser, navigate an airline site, execute a transaction, cross-reference another site, and sync with your software.
It's doing real-world tasks.
Yeah. And to execute that kind of multi-step real-world workflow, the raw parallel brute force of a GPU isn't actually what you need anymore.
Interesting.
You need a processor that excels at complex sequential logic. You need a traffic manager.
And that brings us right back to the central processing unit, the CPU.
Exactly.
So to borrow our earlier analogy, if the GPU paved the massive private superhighways by training the models, the CPU is the traffic light, the exit ramp, and the dispatcher actually directing the cars where to go in the real world.
That's spot on. And the financial markets are reacting violently to this architectural pivot. The reign of the GPU is suddenly looking a lot less absolute.
Let's look at the numbers from this year, because they are wild. NVIDIA, the absolute poster child of the generative AI boom, is only up about 15%. Meanwhile, AMD, which is heavily invested in server CPUs, has surged 112%.
And then there's Intel.
Right, Intel.
Intel, a company that many analysts were literally writing obituaries for just a few years ago, is up a staggering 240% this year.
And if you zoom out 12 months, they are up 500%.
That's crazy. And the long-term projections reflect this massive reallocation of capital. AMD's CEO, Lisa Su, projected that the server CPU market will grow by more than 35% annually.
Exceeding $120 billion by 2030.
Yeah. That is a projection she actually had to double over just a 6-month period as the demand for agentic AI became clear.
And Intel is capitalizing on this exact momentum.
Oh, yeah. They've locked in long-term supply agreements with Google and are reportedly in advanced manufacturing talks with Apple to build domestic chips.
Okay, so I have to push back hard on this narrative for a second.
Sure.
NVIDIA is up 15%, while Intel jumps 500%. When you see numbers like that, warning sirens should be going off.
Fair point.
Are we genuinely seeing a changing of the guard as the hardware sources claim? Or is Wall Street just desperately hunting for the next big bubble? Like, NVIDIA got too expensive to buy, so investors are throwing billions at legacy CPU makers, hoping to strike gold twice.
Well, the skepticism is absolutely warranted. The sources include a very stark warning from BT analysts. regarding exactly this phenomenon.
What are they saying?
They are cautioning investors about a potential 25 to 30% dot-com style correction in the broader semiconductor index.
Oh, wow. A dot-com style crash.
Yeah. They explicitly point out that the magnitude of this rally, where legacy tech stocks are quintupling in value almost overnight, looks incredibly similar to the euphoric peak of 1999.
So the bubble might burst.
The valuations might certainly be stretched to a breaking point,
Of
yeah.
course.
However, the analysts also concede that the underlying technological shift is very real.
So the money might be a bubble, but the tech isn't.
It's exactly. The move from training massive models to deploying active sequential agents genuinely requires new CPU infrastructure. So the financial bubble might pop, but the physical hardware demands are permanently broadening.
Which leads us to a fascinating and incredibly tense reality. You cannot build these new CPU traffic managers, and you cannot secure the raw wafers for high bandwidth memory without navigating the most fragile geopolitical web on the planet.
No, you really can't. The silicon supply chain is now the absolute center of gravity for international diplomacy.
And just to ground this conversation for you listening, our goal here is to impartially map out the geopolitical facts exactly as they are reported in these sources.
Right.
We are not here to play politics, endorse any policy, or take sides. We are strictly tracking the geopolitical ripple effects of the hardware crisis.
And those effects recently culminated in a high-stakes diplomatic trip to China, led by U.S. President Donald Trump.
The roster of the delegation that traveled to Beijing tells you everything you need to know about where power currently resides right now.
Oh, absolutely.
You have Elon Musk representing Tesla's autonomous ambitions, Tim Cook representing Apple's consumer ecosystem, Larry Fink from BlackRock representing the global capital markets.
And a crucial last-minute addition, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang.
Yeah, the logistics of Huang joining are wild. The sources note he wasn't originally on the passenger list.
No, he wasn't.
He literally had to fly to Alaska to intercept and board the presidential plane during a refueling layover.
Which just shows you, when the CEO of the world's most important AI hardware company is scrambling to catch a flight to Beijing, you know the stakes are existential.
But looking at the dynamics here, we hear about these summits framed as diplomatic wins. But isn't this essentially a high-stakes hostage negotiation?
In what sense?
Well, the U.S. holds the microchip designs, and China holds the rare earth minerals.
Calling it a hostage negotiation really captures the precise leverage both sides are wielding here. The United States are trying to thread an impossible needle. They want to stabilize a multi-billion-dollar economic relationship, but they simultaneously want to heavily restrict China's access to the most advanced AI chips.
Because the strategic calculus is that whichever nation dominates artificial intelligence will dominate the global economy.
Exactly. And the U.S. wants to throttle their rivals' compute power.
But the U.S. doesn't hold all the cards. You cannot physically manufacture a modern microchip without rare earth minerals.
And China controls the vast majority of the global supply chain for those specific elemental resources. They hold the physical keys to the digital kingdom.
So what is China's move here?
In response to U.S. chip restrictions, China has been aggressively blocking U.S. supplies to protect and nurture their own domestic hardware developers, most notably Huawei.
Right. They are trying to build an entirely parallel AI ecosystem that doesn't rely on American technology.
Yes. And this delicate bartering over silicon and minerals is playing out against an incredibly volatile backdrop, too.
You're talking about the war in Iran and the severe U.S. tariffs and sanctions on Chinese oil transport.
Exactly. It's all connected.
It is a terrifyingly fragile dependencies loop. I mean, we need their minerals to build the chips, they need our chips to train their AI, and neither side wants the other to gain even a millimeter of advantage.
Yep.
The fact that Jensen Huang had to fly to Alaska to join this summit proves that silicon has officially become the new oil. It's the ultimate geopolitical bargaining chip.
But the sheer billions of dollars required to fight this geopolitical war over silicon changes the entire nature of the AI industry.
How do you mean?
Well, you cannot compete for these chips on a charity budget anymore. The staggering capital required to simply exist in this space is what ignited the final conflict we really need to discuss today.
Yes. Because while the CEOs are playing high-level diplomacy abroad, back home, the domestic corporate warfare is just as intense.
It's brutal.
The industry isn't just fighting over supply chains. The two biggest figures in the AI space are fighting a bitter federal courtroom battle over the control and really the soul of OpenAI.
Yeah, we are looking at a monumental lawsuit pitting Elon Musk against Sam Altman. And this goes far beyond a standard breach of contract dispute.
This is an ideological war over what OpenAI was supposed to be in the first place.
Exactly.
Let's unpack the core of this trial, because the testimony reads less like a tech dispute and more like a script for succession.
It really does.
Elon Musk helped found OpenAI with a $38 million donation. Now, he is standing in federal court claiming that Sam Altman essentially stole a charity.
And Musk's legal argument hinges entirely on OpenAI's original founding charter.
Which was what, exactly?
Well, the organization was legally incorporated as a nonprofit with the explicit written commitment to develop artificial general intelligence safely, transparently, and for the benefit of all humanity.
And Musk alleges that Sam Altman and OpenAI president Greg Brockman blatantly violated that charter.
Right. By secretly orchestrating a massive, complex conversion into a capped for-profit enterprise.
And Musk isn't just asking for an apology here. He is seeking the redistribution of an astonishing $134 billion.
It's a staggering number.
He wants Altman permanently removed, and he is demanding the legal unraveling of that for-profit conversion.
But when Sam Altman took the stand, his defense fundamentally rejected the premise that he executed some sort of corporate heist.
How did he frame it?
The defense paints a picture of extreme hypocrisy. Altman testified under oath that back in 2017, the board realized that achieving their AI goals was going to cost exponentially more computing power than a nonprofit could ever afford to buy.
Which ties right back into the hardware costs we were just talking about.
Exactly. So when they started discussing a for-profit structure to raise capital, Altman claims Musk demanded absolute unilateral control over the new entity.
The sources say Musk even suggested rolling OpenAI directly into Tesla to use it as a cash cow.
According to Altman's testimony, yes. And when the other co-founders refused to grant one person total control over what they viewed as humanity's most important technology, Musk walked away.
So the defense's narrative is that Musk isn't a benevolent whistleblower trying to save humanity.
No, they are framing him as simply a jealous ex-founder, furious that the company became a world-altering success without him at the helm.
But this isn't just a he said between two billionaires. The gravity of this trial pulled in the biggest software company on Earth.
Yep, Microsoft.
Because Microsoft invested heavily in OpenAI's new for-profit arm, and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was literally forced to testify.
And Nadella's testimony pulled back the curtain on the internal chaos at OpenAI. He was questioned extensively about that infamous weekend in November 2023 when OpenAI's nonprofit board abruptly fired Sam Altman, only to reverse course and rehire him days later.
And Nadella did not mince words.
No, he did not. Under oath, he called the board's actions amateur city.
Wow.
Yeah. He testified about being pulled out of a meeting and informed of the firing with zero substantive explanation, which he viewed as a catastrophic breach of trust given Microsoft's multi-billion-dollar reliance on the partnership.
And the financial stakes for Microsoft totally justify that anger. I mean, the financial disclosures from the trial are absolutely jaw-dropping. Microsoft has already generated $9.5 billion in direct sales from integrating OpenAI's tech. But the real kicker is an internal Microsoft projection revealed in court.
Right, the $92 billion projection.
Yes. They are estimating a $92 billion return on their initial $13 billion investment.
It's massive.
When you see a $92 billion projected return, it is incredibly hard to look at the original nonprofit label as anything other than a Trojan horse used to quietly build a massive monopolistic tech empire.
And that staggering financial reality is the exact wedge Musk's legal team is using.
Tell me about the cross-examination.
Musk's lead attorney, Stephen Mollo, subjected Altman to a grueling cross-examination, specifically targeting his credibility. Mollo stood in court and pointedly asked Altman, "Are you completely trustworthy?"
Ouch.
Yeah. He brought up multiple reports of former colleagues describing Altman as deceptive and manipulative. Mollo repeatedly hammered on the fact that the board that briefly fired Altman explicitly cited that he was not consistently candid in his communications.
But the scrutiny on Altman isn't just about his candor in board meetings, is it?
No, it's about massive structural conflicts of interest. And this is the moment where the digital courtroom drama crashes violently back into the physical reality of the hardware crisis.
Okay, let's connect those dots.
So during the financial disclosures in the trial, it was revealed that Sam Altman holds a personal equity stake of approximately $1.65 billion in a company called Helion Energy.
Helion is a nuclear fusion startup. They are trying to build the holy grail of power generation.
Right.
Why is the CEO of an AI software company investing over $1 billion into nuclear fusion?
Because of the very first thing we talked about today, the physical limits of the Earth.
The power grid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stargate and these massive AI data centers demand an astronomical, almost incomprehensible amount of electricity to power the millions of chips inside them. Existing power grids just cannot handle the load.
So where does helium fit in?
Helion Energy currently has an agreement to begin selling power to Microsoft by 2028, and their explicit long-term goal is to supply vast amounts of fusion energy directly to OpenAI to power their future server farms.
Okay, so if we trace the money here,
Yeah.
Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, a company whose entire existence relies on securing massive amounts of new electricity.
Right.
And he personally owns a third of the startup, positioning itself to sell them that exact electricity.
You've got it. Now, Altman testified that he formally recuses himself from any direct negotiations OpenAI has with Helion, and he pointed out that he stepped down from Helion's board.
But the optics of a $1.65 billion crossover are just, they've triggered serious alarm bells in Washington.
Oh, absolutely. The House Oversight Committee has officially launched an investigation.
Right. They sent a sweeping letter to Altman demanding all internal communications and documents related to OpenAI's handling of these investments.
The government wants to ensure that tax-advantaged charitable funds, or corporate leverage, are being quietly used to artificially inflate the valuation of outside companies, where executives hold massive personal stakes.
It is a perfectly closed, terrifying loop. The AI models demand hundreds of thousands of raw silicon wafers. Those wafers require rare earth minerals locked up in a geopolitical standoff in Beijing. The finished chips demand millions of gallons of water for cooling and gigawatts of electricity to run.
Yeah.
And the people controlling the AI are now personally investing billions into experimental nuclear fusion just to keep the servers from going dark.
If we synthesize this entire journey, it paints a really profound picture of where we actually stand in 2026. What began in the public consciousness as a software revolution, like a neat trick where a computer could write a poem, has mutated into an unprecedented physical and geopolitical crisis.
It really has.
Artificial intelligence is literally eating the world's memory supply, fundamentally altering how factories operate. It is resurrecting legacy CPU makers from the dead as the architecture shifts toward autonomous agentic AI.
Right.
It is forcing world leaders and tech billionaires into tense, high-stakes bartering over raw minerals. And it is tearing apart former friends in federal court over the staggering amounts of money and power at stake.
And this is exactly why this deep dive matters directly to you.
Exactly.
The next time you go online to buy a laptop or try to upgrade your smartphone, the price tag you see staring back at you isn't just a random number dictated by inflation.
No.
That price is a direct mathematical result of OpenAI buying up 40% of the world's silicon wafers. It's a direct result of international trade tariffs on rare earth minerals and the insatiable demands that AI is placing on our physical power grids.
It's all connected.
The Ramageddon isn't just an abstract industry buzzword. It is quite literally a tax on every piece of consumer electronics you touch.
The tech industry has spent decades selling us the illusion of an infinite digital frontier. But the reality of 2026 forces us to confront a very old truth. The digital realm has hard, unforgiving physical limits.
Which leaves us with a rather haunting thought to end on today. We are building AI agents that are demanding so much physical infrastructure, so many stacked memory chips, so much sequential processing power, and so much raw electricity that CEOs are banking on unproven nuclear fusion just to keep the lights on.
It really makes you wonder, what happens when the physical Earth simply cannot yield resources fast enough to sustain the growth of this digital brain? Will the AI we are building eventually have to learn how to ration its own computing power?